I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Vietnam to introduce an address by the head of state.
Mr. Vice President, I have the great honor to introduce the pre-recorded statement by His Excellency Mr. Nguyen Phu Trong, President of the Socialist Republic of Vietnam.
Your Excellency Volkan Bozkir, President of the 75th Session of the United Nations General Assembly, Your Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to congratulate Your Excellency Volkan Bozkir upon your election as the President of the 75th United Nations General Assembly. I am fully confident that under your experienced and able leadership, our session will be a success. Let me also voice my appreciation for the important contributions that His Excellency Tijmani Muhammad Bandi, President of the 74th Session of the United Nations General Assembly, and Secretary General Antonio Guterres have made despite the tremendous challenges posed by the COVID-19 pandemic. Mr. President, we are celebrating the 75th anniversary of the United Nations, entering the third decade of the 21st century in extraordinary circumstances. For the first time in history, the leaders of member states are unable to gather at the UNGA General Debate. This, however, does not diminish our resolve and ability to deliberate and seek solutions for issues of common concern. I echo the Secretary General's assessment that we are facing the most formidable challenges since the birth of the UN. In particular, the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic on the economy, society, politics, and, most of all, human life. Mr. President, against this backdrop, I welcome the theme of our session, the future we want, the UN we need, reaffirming our collective commitment to multilateralism, confronting COVID-19 through effective multilateral action. Allow me to share some of my thoughts along that line. First, global and regional multilateral mechanisms must be strengthened. We need a United Nations that is truly cohesive and inclusive, where every member, large or small, rich or poor, can have a voice in deciding matters of common concern. The UN must serve as the incubator for multilateral cooperation initiatives for peace, development, and prosperity. Further reforms should be undertaken to transform the UN into a stronger and more effective organization that can fulfill its role of harmonizing the interests and behaviors of states in the face of the tectonic shift of our time. Second, the United Nations Charter and the fundamental principles of international law must be upheld and advanced as the norms for behavior for all countries in contemporary international relations. We must be resolute and perseverant in advancing cooperation and friendship to counter conflict and hostility. We must choose dialogue over confrontation and peaceful settlement of disputes over unilateral acts of imposition. In this spirit, Vietnam calls for the removal of unilateral sanctions that adversely affect countries' socio-economic development and people's livelihoods, especially the embargo imposed upon Cuba. Third, the COVID-19 pandemic serves as a stern warning to us all, requiring our stronger commitments and stronger actions to promote sustainable, inclusive, and human-centered development. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development should continue to be the framework for our cooperation to overcome this pandemic for sustainable recovery. Our policies and actions should have the interest of our people at the heart, so that no one and no country will be left behind. Developing countries should receive financial assistance, technological and commercial facilitation to realize the Sustainable Development Goals. Mr. President, 75 years ago, on September 2nd, 1945, President Ho Chi Minh delivered the Declaration of Independence that proclaimed the birth of the Democratic Republic of Vietnam, now the Socialist Republic of Vietnam. Since the early days, President Ho Chi Minh, on multiple occasions, sent letters to the founding members of the UN, expressing Vietnam's desire to become a member of the organization, while it was not until 1977 that this aspiration became reality. The long and tenacious struggle of Vietnam to win and defend national independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity served as a concrete contribution to the worldwide movement for peace, democracy, and social progress. Ultimately, the same noble goals which the UN aspires. Let me take this occasion, on behalf of the Vietnamese people, to express our deepest gratitude to countries and international friends for your generous support towards our past righteous struggle for national independence and present national development. Vietnam was once a poor and backward country, ravaged by war and strangled by embargo. After 35 years of Doi Moi reform, Vietnam has emerged as a middle-income developing country and is aiming to be a high-income industrial country by 2045. In the fight against COVID-19, difficulties notwithstanding, Vietnam has recorded positive and noteworthy outcomes. We have successfully contained the pandemic while promoting social and economic development. Out of international solidarity, and with the understanding that the pandemic is only defeated when we all win, Vietnam has engaged in cooperation and experience sharing with many countries, including support provided to those worst affected by the pandemic and to the common international efforts. Vietnam pursues a foreign policy of independence, self-reliance, multilateralization and diversification of relations. As a reliable partner and an active, responsible member of the international community, Vietnam attaches importance to the work of the UN and have been expanding our cooperation with the organization. Vietnam will work with member states to make the UN more democratic, transparent, and effective. As a non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council for the term 2020-2021, Vietnam promotes dialogue, de-escalation of tension and confrontation, and fair and sustainable solutions to regional and global peace and security issues. We champion multilateralism and the respect for international law and the UN Charter, and strengthen relations between the UN and regional organizations, especially ASEAN. As the 2020 ASEAN Chair, Vietnam is working with fellow member states to build a region of peace, friendship, and cooperation. In order to realize the vision of ASEAN as a politically cohesive, economically integrated, and socially responsible community. Together with countries within and outside the region, we are committed to the maintenance and promotion of peace, stability, security, and freedom of navigation in the South China Sea in accordance with international law, particularly the 1982 United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. We call on all parties concerned to exercise restraint, avoid unilateral acts that would complicate the situation, and settle disputes and differences through peaceful means with due respect for the diplomatic and legal processes. Mr. President, over the last 75 years, Member States have painstakingly built a United Nations for peace, cooperation, and development. We are duty-bound to strengthen and reinvigorate the world's largest multilateral organization, particularly in the face of immense challenges and opportunities of the 21st century. Thank you for your kind attention.
On behalf of the General Assembly, I wish to thank the President of the Socialist Republic of Vietnam for the statement just made. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Zimbabwe to introduce an address by the head of state.